Emotions are mostly a detriment to your progress as an individual. And the reason why I say this is because emotions most of the time are a detriment. What they lead you to doing in relation to progress is they lead you to divert away from your attention in the present moment to worry about things in the past, worry about things of the future, and it diverts your attention away from actually doing things, actually acting in the real world towards your goals, your ambitions, and your endeavors. That is not something that's beneficial in one sense. But emotions can be very useful if understood and applied in a specific way. And what I mean by this is if you use emotions for your own benefit. Now, there is a concept in psychology called your inner child. Now, this concept is basically an idea where you, in your past, went through experiences when you were a child that caused you a lot of pain and caused you a lot of trauma, fundamentally. And I think this is objective with anyone you talk about, no matter who you talk to. Everyone has gone through some sort of experience in their childhood that was not beneficial for them, because parenting is, in one sense, impossible to perfect, of course. And also, some people have just gone through some really hard shit that's definitely conditioned them in certain ways to act in certain ways, or for them to suppress certain things about themselves that they find very difficult to confront. Now, when it comes to emotion, and using emotion to your own benefit, this is when emotion can become very useful, because as you grow up, as you become a man or as you become a woman, and you enter into adulthood, and you enter into becoming an actual grown up individual, the way you relate to your inner child changes, because this is the point where you become a guardian or a redeemer for your inner child. So a good thing to do is to try and contemplate on your past in relation to things that you've gone through. Then when it comes to emotion and our experience of the world in relation to our inner child, there are wounds that we go through when we were children that are usually objective on every single level, in the sense that we have gone through all these emotions. So when it comes to levels of consciousness or levels of emotion, there are extremely low levels of emotion, negative levels of emotion, and extremely high levels of emotion. And usually the wounds that the inner child goes through they embody some of the lowest forms of emotional experience that we can possibly go through, such as rejection, abandonment, humiliation, injustice, and betrayal. These are some of the experiences that harbor some extremely strong negative emotions that are of the lowest kind and the lowest level, because it brings us down to a very low level of consciousness, a low level of experience, and it causes a lot of trauma. It causes something in which we carry on for the majority of our lives, and sometimes it dictates us unconsciously, or it can dictate us in a very conscious way. And the way we want those emotions and those experiences to dictate us and allow us to act in the real world in a conscious way is if we integrate with those extremely negative, low vibrational experiences of emotion. Because if we do that, we can then use it as a catalyst for determination, a catalyst for ambition and drive and willpower. Because, like I was just saying, you are now an adult. So you need to relate to your inner child in a way where you are living up to the archetypal embrace of the guardian, of the redeemer. Because there is no one else who's going to save you in this world except for yourself when it comes to acting in the real world and improving upon yourself. So you need to be the redeemer of your own inner child. So how are you going to do that? Well, seeing that you're an adult, you need to look at what those negative experiences were and reaffirm change to yourself so that you can become a better individual for your future self. You want to look at what it is that you went through and reaffirm guardianship and be a redeemer for your inner child that is within. Because now you are the parent to your inner child, to those experiences that you went through that caused you a lot of trauma. And you want to use those experiences now as a way to really move yourself forward so that you can redeem that part of yourself that has carried all of those wounds and carried all of those forms of belittlement and negative energy into a place of positivity. So in that sense, you're very much doing an alchemical process of converting what is extremely negative into something extremely positive. Because once you tap into this way of looking at your own experiences as an individual, you can then actually convert those things in which you've gone through. Now, for example, people who are very determined, people who are very disciplined, people who are very with a very strong mindset, very disciplined individuals, they've usually gone through some extremely hard shit. Think of the very famous guy, David Goggins, for example. He was beaten as a child. He went through all sorts of fucking shit. And the reason why he's so disciplined is because he's used those experiences and he's turned them into ways to basically be a guardian and be something of kinship to his inner child of the things he went through when he was a kid. So he's extremely disciplined. He has a strong mentality. He has a lot of integrity with these certain things, or just people like this in general. And that is because the individual has contemplated on what they've gone through, and they've converted it into something of benefit for them so that they can always have motivation. And this is a great source of motivation. I don't really believe that, you can't always have motivation because motivation is a temporary feeling. Kind of. It just depends on what you base your motivation on. If you base your motivation on something that's very, something that's very external, something of, I want to achieve this, I want to buy this car, or I want to have this thing, or something that's just of external, extrinsic motivation. Of course, the motivation is just going to spit. But if you want consistent, infinite motivation, you want to base your motivation on something that is at the core of your own heart, something that is very vulnerable to you, and you want to embrace what that darkness is of experience, where I could say like wounds of the inner child, experiences that you've gone through that were very traumatic, and you want to be of kinship to that part of yourself that you've experienced when you're at a younger age. So let me just reframe this in relation to those 5 wounds that we go through when we're a child. Rejection becomes a catalyst for acceptance. Abandonment, a journey towards belonging. Humiliation, a bridge towards humility. Betrayal, a path to trust. Injustice, a crusade towards self-acceptance. So this is how you want to frame these wounds that you went through, and how you're going to use those wounds as catalysts to your own personal self-improvement so that you can be of kinship and can be of guardianship to that inner child that is within you. Because if you cannot do that, it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to find a form of intrinsic motivation that is so strong that is going to allow you to keep improving upon yourself on a daily basis and to build discipline that is grounded in the roots of your own being. Because you need to connect to that which is dark within yourself. You need to connect to the shadow. You need to connect to the experiences that you've gone through that were very difficult for you to build a foundation of strength, because it needs to be rooted to your sense of self. It needs to, your actions of your affirmative actions of being opportunistic, of being positive, of being a driven individual with loads of willpower who is driving towards a certain goal or ambition. For you to maintain that, you need to root your sense of self and your motivation and your ambition into a part of you that is very vulnerable, because that is how you maintain consistency. That is how you do it. So that is what I'm talking about with regards to the inner child. You want to associate yourself to the inner child in a way where you are being of a guardian to your inner child, because now you're adult. You're an adult human being. You're someone who has grown up. So you need to be the parent towards the inner child that is within you, to the child that you once were. Especially if your parents couldn't be there for you when you were a child. That is a very important thing. You need to be your own greatest asset, your own greatest friend when it comes to confronting dark periods in your life. If you need to work through those things, you need to be there for yourself. You cannot abandon yourself in situations like this. So if you're someone who does this, someone who abandons themselves at the most difficult hurdles of life, or someone who is not aligning themselves towards consistency, or someone who's finding it very hard to even relate to their negative past experiences of trauma because they've suppressed them for a very long time, or someone who's still controlled by their negative experiences of childhood trauma. Maybe they, like I was saying, the 5 different wounds. You've gone through those different forms of wounds: injustice, betrayal, abandonment, humility. You've gone through different forms of those emotional states, and you haven't found a way to reconnect with yourself to be affirmative in the best way you possibly can. Then book in a free one-on-one coaching call and we can talk about this. We can go into this so that we can build a process and a coaching plan for you that's going to be very helpful in being able for you to tap into that part of yourself so that you can build permanent discipline. You can build a way in which you can change your habits, breaking down bad habits, reinforcing good ones through habit formation, psychology, and the different techniques that could be found within that. Or if even you have low self-esteem, or you have self-limiting thoughts, or intrusive thoughts that are coming from these past experiences, we can work through all of those things through different modalities of psychology that have been very useful for many, many years. So if that relates to you, please do book in that call. It will definitely be a benefit for you. And with that said, guys, make sure to like the video, comment your thoughts down below. How do you relate to this whole idea and topic that I'm talking about? And I'll speak to you in the next.